The most popular technique for lucid dreaming, which also happens to be one of the few that is scientifically proven, is Stephen LaBerge's m.i.l.d. technique. Unfortunately, this is also a technique that is often misrepresented on the internet, so before I go into what m.i.l.d. is, I'll first start with what m.i.l.d. is not. The m.i.l.d. technique is not an auto-suggestion technique. It's not a technique where you repeat affirmations to yourself over and over again in order to gain lucidity later on in the night. I believe this misunderstanding came about due to a misinterpretation of what Stephen LaBerge wrote in his now famous book. And as things often do on the internet, it spread, getting diluted as it went from person to person in the style of the phone game over the internet. So what is the m.i.l.d. technique then? m.i.l.d. stands for Mnemonic Induction of Lucid Dreaming. The word mnemonic here simply means that this technique is a device that is meant to aid us in remembering something at a future date, namely that we are dreaming while we are in a dream. This uses what is called prospective memory, which is basically just remembering to do something in the future. It's the same kind of memory you'd use when remembering to get eggs at the grocery store. It's remembering to do something when you need to do it without having to concentrate on that thing for the entire time up until that point. Now, the steps to m.i.l.d. are actually quite simple. The first step is to set your intention to recall your dreams. Setting your intention is a bit of a strange concept itself, but is actually quite simple when you get into it. You just decide you're going to do something and you mean it. It's no different than deciding you're going to go for a walk later and then doing that, or deciding on a myriad of other things that you decide to do and actually meet. After setting your intention, the next thing you're going to want to do is wake up at some point during the night and recall one of the dreams you've had. You should recall this dream with as much detail as possible. After this, you should set your intention again, only this time, instead of setting your intention to remember your dream, you're going to want to set your intention to become lucid while you're in the dream state. Tell yourself something like, I will recognize I'm dreaming the next time I'm dreaming, and say it with conviction. Now, I believe this part, the saying that you're going to have a dream tonight to yourself, setting your intention in that way, I believe this is where the misunderstanding came from when people were reading Stephen LaBerge's book. You see, they read this and they believed that the purpose here was to repeat this affirmation to yourself over and over again until you fall asleep, or at least that's eventually what it became as it got diluted. But the affirmation is not necessarily what's important here. It doesn't matter what you say to yourself. What matters is that you set the intent, and then that you combined that intent, the intention to become lucid, with what comes next. Now, the next thing you do is that while holding that intention inside of you, you play back the dream in your head, the dream that we mentioned earlier. You play that back in your head, going through it with as much detail as possible. You go through it, but instead of playing it exactly as it did before, you're going to make a change. You're going to change some part of the dream, your choice, which part, and you're going to alter it so that instead of going throughout the dream and never realizing that it is a dream, you do realize it's a dream in this altered version of yours. And then you play out what you would do once you become lucid. Go through this technique as many times as you can. If you can do this up until the point you fall asleep, great. If not, that's okay too, because even doing this for just 5 minutes will drastically increase your chances of becoming lucid. So do it for as long as it feels right for you. Oh yeah, I also have a website. It's pretty cool. Go check it out. Link in the description. Longer is good, but what is most important here is not to burn yourself out. So do what feels right. Do as much as you think is appropriate for your own circumstances. That's all there really is to the m.i.l.d. technique. It's simple, but highly effective. I've even heard a report of one person who, doing this night after night, has reached the point where they can lucid dream every night. As I've said, it's one of the few techniques that have been scientifically proven, and if you want to have a lucid dream, it is a technique that I would highly recommend you try tonight. Yeah, I don't know how to end this video, so I'm gonna go.